Welcome to our Building Assessments in Brightspace course. Again, I'm Darren Towers from the Office of Instructional Technology. Brand new, just started a few weeks ago. And Amy Hood will be in our chat today. So please feel free to use the chat and we will stop and answer questions along the way. I can't wait to show you what the inside of the Brightspace quiz maker looks like, and also give you a chance to see what it's like to take a quiz as a student if you haven't done that before. So first things first, I know some of you have already done this, but if you could please, in the next couple of minutes, go into that Discover tool somewhere in Brightspace. If you click on the ACPS in the top left corner or your school icon in the top left corner, you'll see that Discover tool in the nav bar. Search for Building Assessment in Brightspace, and this one should pop up. Please enroll, and then open the course. And you can have that off in another tab. And we'll use that a little bit later. There's not much you can do there right now, but you can access this presentation. I will also put a link to our presentation in the chat for us right now, so that if you prefer to follow along that way, you can do that. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here is our presentation, the last thing in the chat. And please don't forget to click on and fill out the attendance form for every session you attend during our Brighter with Brightspace conference. I'll leave these directions up for another 30 seconds just so you can see what to do if you still need it. I've been in the class list of our course, and it looks like a lot of you have already joined. So we'll give you another 20 seconds just to look at that if you need to. All right, so let's begin. Let's begin with kind of some terms to know, things to know, and really this is just kind of our outline for today. So obviously we're going to be looking at quiz building, and I know it's building assessment, but in Brightspace it's a quiz. So you build a quiz for any type of assessment you want to give, whether that be a CFA or a summative assessment at the end of a unit. A good place to start, and this is not how you have to do it, as you'll see with many things in Brightspace, you don't have to do it one way. There are multiple ways to do something, but I like to start with the quizzes tool. It puts everything that's part of a quiz or an assessment all in one place. The other option is to go ahead and click on somewhere in your table of contents in your content tool and start a new quiz or and build it that way. So either way, you can get the job done. We're going to look at how you can edit the categories that you put your quizzes into. Just a great way to keep yourself organized when you start to have multiple assessments in your course. We're also going to look at the question library, a place where you can, excuse me, go and build your question library. So, and you can organize those into sections. You can add entire sections to quizzes. You can add question by question to a quiz. And we'll look at that as well as we explore the quiz tool. We're also going to look at a quiz I've already built. It's actually the quiz you're going to be taking today. And just kind of look at how I built that, how you add questions, how you add sections, how you could bring in from the question library. And we're going to look at just very, very briefly at the question pool. This is something that you have the presentation. I have some how-to and a video that you can watch, but what the question pool does for you. And it's really just an effective way to prevent your students from cheating. This may be great for some of our secondary people. When you have students who maybe look over each other's shoulders, but you can bring in an entire pool of questions, and Brightspace will give each learner a unique set of questions from that pool. So it won't give them every question. You'll determine how many questions each learner gets, and then you will determine. And then Brightspace kind of does everything else for you and gives them those questions in different order. So there's kind of less risk of cheating off each other. We're going to look at how you can bring in standards to your quiz and attach standards for yourself. We're also going to look at how you can import, export, copy, and really just copy a quiz from a colleague. So if you have the name of a colleague's course, you can go right into their course and grab their quiz and bring it into yours and do what you need to with it. Or you can grab individual questions. So it's a great way to collaborate and share. If time allows, we're going to look at kind of other assessment tools that are within Brightspace, which include surveys and a self-assessment. I'll let you take those, They're in the course, and I hope to get into those just a little bit, but I also included some how-tos for that as well. So we're going to start with kind of that quiz building and looking at the quizzes tool and the question library. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the presentation for now. Feel free to continue to follow along in the presentation, or if you're more comfortable being in your sandbox and you want to follow along that way, please feel free. So I'm actually going to use my sandbox for this part, not the building assessments course. We'll get into that a little bit later when you're all taking the quiz. So to begin with a quiz, like I said, the quiz tool I think is the best way to go. And I have that added to my nav bar. That's something you can do by clicking on the 3 dots and edit your nav bar. Very simple to add and remove links from your nav bar and put them in the order that you want them for you and your participants or students. You can also get to the quizzes tool like everything else by going into your class tool and your course admin. Course admin has that list of tools that you can use and work with within Brightspace. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that quizzes tool. And I'm just going to kind of point out and show some of the features of what you'll find in the quizzes tool. Yours might be empty, mine not much better really right now. Just a few things I've been playing around with, mostly with my son. But as you can see, I'm in the Manage Quizzes tab, and I have all of my quizzes that listed here. Some you can see have categories: Brighter with Brightspace, Math CFA, Mod 1 quizzes. Some do not have categories. This is just a great way to organize. Also, when you're building the quiz, you can choose to add it to a category or not. So if you're just building one from scratch and you want to add it into a category later, you have that option as you're building the quiz, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. From here, you can go ahead and just start creating a new quiz. That's kind of the main option within the quiz builder. You can also edit the categories. I can try to zoom in a little bit. Yes. I thought full screen would do it for us, but let's. All right, hopefully that's a little bit better for you. So again, you can edit the categories that you have for your quizzes. You can go ahead and add a category here. Right now, I'm not going to add it. Well, actually, I will. Let's add a new category. So we'll just call it, click on Add Category, and New. So now I have a 4th category in my quiz tool. You can see, where is my new category? And there we go. I just learned something brand new. So you can see here, your category, it's not in use. I haven't added a quiz to it yet. So it's not going to show up, but that's OK. When we build a quiz, we can go ahead and add it to that category. Then it'll show up in your quizzes tool. So something I just learned. You also have more actions. Adding a learning object is something I've not explored yet. So if you have, I'd love to learn more about that with you, but that's not something I've looked into yet. You can reorder your quizzes and categories. Here you can make your quizzes visible to others just by hitting the checkbox, and you can do it right from here. There's a lot of ways to make your content, quizzes, assignments, everything visible to your users. And you can also delete your quizzes and categories from here just by using the checkbox option. Next, we're going to look at the question library. So I'm more of I will just write the questions as I go, as I build the quiz. Some people like to have all of their questions ready to go and then move them into the quiz. It's really just kind of preference for how you work and how you like to do things. I think there's probably this way is probably better, so I should probably move to this way. But this coming from that elementary side, I think you just, I got 3 good questions I want to ask. I'm just going to build a quiz. I think the secondary side, maybe you have all that ready to go. Building a question, the question library is also great for the question pool. You can have a large set of questions ready to go. You want to make them all kind of at the same level. You don't want to make some harder than others because you don't know which students will get which quiz if you decide to insert a question pool. So in the question library, you can see that I'm organized here by the sections in my question library. So before we had categories, you put your quizzes into categories. In the question library, you have different sections you can add. And essentially, these could be a quiz if you wanted to, or you can draw questions, individual questions from a section. So it's really just how you work and how you want to do it. When you click on that new button, you can add a section to your question library. So again, just like I added a category, I'm just going to add a generic section. When you do that, this can be visible to your learners, or you can hide it from your learners. You can also have a section text. This comes into play when you are going to add an entire section to a quiz or use it as a question pool. So it depends on what you want your learners to see or not. This really could just be more for you, or more for you, just for your reference. So I go ahead and I save that. And you can see I have my new section here. There are no questions in it yet, but I can start creating within this new section. So if I click on it, I don't have any questions yet, but I can start doing that. So from here, and you can create these questions just out in the open in your question library, or you can choose the section you want them to fall into. You can't do that later. So if you create a question that's just kind of out in the question library, I don't believe you can move it into a section. But so if you want it in a section, create it right in the section that you want it in. So within a section, I can create another section. And then from there, we have some of our kind of just general questions that you can create, those kind of standards, the true and false, the multiple choice, the multiple select, a straight up written response or short answer. So those are kind of what we're kind of used to as far as questions go.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Can we, are you going to be stopping periodically, or do you want me to interrupt you once questions build up?
Yeah, if there's a question that I need to answer out loud, then yeah, go ahead and stop me.
Okay.
And we can stop, yeah.
The purpose of the categories, is that just how we want to organize things?
Yeah, so your categories are more for organizing your quizzes. It's an organizational tool within the quiz tool.
Okay, so it's teacher choice?
Yeah, teacher choice. You could have a math category. You could have a math period 1 category. You could have, if you're an elementary teacher, you could have them organized by unit or semester or quarters. You know, it's really up to you.
And then if questions are imported, will it recognize special characters, or is it going to have the same sort of problems Performance Matters would have?
It should. That's not something I played around with much. So yeah, as far as I know, it will. I don't think it has the same issue as Performance Matters. But if you wanted to email me that question, I could look into that further.
Okay.
Any other questions we should answer now?
Just some confusion over, they need to be in their sandbox in order to see that new quiz button, correct?
Correct, yeah. Your sandbox, you're a teacher. The quiz that you enrolled in for this course, or the course you enrolled in this morning for this session, you're a student, so you won't see any of this. So that's why I'm showing my sandbox. That's where you can follow along and work as well. I would just say, whenever you're going to practice in Brightspace, make sure you use your sandbox. You're a teacher there, and you have pretty much everything that I have here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So like I was saying, creating your questions, you have kind of those standard questions. Brightspace gives you some other question options. These we're not going to have time to get into what all of these can do for you, but in the presentation, I have how-tos and videos for a lot of these that you can read and watch and play around with if that's something you want to try. There's 12 different question types. The matching is really cool. There's even arithmetic questions that Brightspace will, you can put in kind of what you want Brightspace to look for as far as scoring the questions. There's a lot to it. So that's something, like we said, that would be more an advanced quiz building course later on. So these are the different question types. Very simple to make a question. Let's go ahead and just make a quick true false. So you can see here, and you can even change this once you're in, but I'm going to make a true false question. This is a true false question. And I'm going to make that true because it is. You can change the points here. There are a few options here. You could add feedback for the student that they would see once they submitted their answer. You could add a hint for your student. You could add a short description of the question. And you could add numeration to the question as well, which is not something I played around with much, but it is one of those options that you have when you're creating a true-false question. And you'll have different options for different types of questions within Brightspace. Once I save that question, you can see I now have a question within my new category. And you can go ahead and continue to create those questions here. Someone asked about import. Again, that's not something we're going to be able to get into today. But the learning repository doesn't have anything in it. But you could upload a file with your questions. That would be something I could post in our session presentation. Find some directions for that if you're interested. Go ahead and email me. My email will be at the end of the presentation. So that is the question library. Let's go back, or adding a question within the question library. So you can see here I have my sections. I have my new section. I've added a question to it. One of the sections I have is Brighter with Brightspace for today that has my questions for today's quiz in it. So let's go back, make sure that we are still on track as far as what we're going to cover today. And Amy, is there anything else that I should answer as far as questions?
Nope, I think we will get to them as we go.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we've covered the question library. So now we're going to look at more how kind of the inner workings of a quiz. So let's go ahead and do that. So again, I'm going to stay in my library, and I'm going to say that I'm done editing my questions for now. I'm going to spin a little bit. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my Brighter with Brightspace quiz. This is the quiz that you all will be taking, or a version of it that you'll all have a chance to take as students today. Well, let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. When you click on the drop down for pretty much anything in Brightspace, you're going to get a whole bunch of options. It just really depends on where you are, how many options you get. But you could go ahead and preview the quiz. You could hide from users, or make visible if it's already hidden. This one's already visible. You can edit. You can go ahead, and this is where you could grade the quiz. You can come right back into your quizzes tool, click the grade, and you could start grading the quiz if there are a written response that needs you to grade it. Other things like true, false, multiple choice, you could set up, they'll self-grade. And there are different reports and different things that you can do as well. So we're going to go ahead and edit this quiz, because I do want to show you kind of all of the different parts of the quiz. So we begin with the properties of the quiz. That is our name, and as you can see, the category. What's nice is if you just started creating a quiz from your content tool, you could add the category right here. You don't have to add it in the quiz tool first. So you could add the category here. And what's nice is it has these question marks if you're not sure what anything is. Associating a category with a quiz allows quizzes to be grouped by category in the quiz list page. So it's just a grouping category feature like we were saying before. One thing you can do is you can prevent your students from moving back and forth in the quiz. So if you put pages within your quiz, you can prevent them from moving back and forth. Again, here you can apply how many questions per page, or you can go ahead and prevent them from moving back and forth. I don't typically check that box. You can see here, I've already added questions to my quiz. Actually, you can see here, I've added a section to my quiz as well. Really not necessary, I don't feel like, to add a section, but you can, especially if you do the page option. So it's really, you can do both, you can do one or the other. It really kind of just depends, and it's something you play with and see what works best for you and your students. Moving toward the bottom is kind of some more optional things, and a lot of this, if it's something you have to have, there's always an asterisk next to it. Everything else really is optional. So you can go the basic route and just make a basic quiz, or you can really get into the system and see what it can do and see what you can add to it. So you could have a description. This is a description of the test quiz, and you can turn it on or off. You can have a page header and a page footer on your quiz as well. You can turn those on and off. And there are some optional advanced feature properties. Again, we're not going to get into these today, but you can allow hints, disable right click. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. I believe you can even put in a notification email for when someone is, so whenever they're done with a quiz attempt, you can get notified. So those are some advanced features that you can play around with as well. So that is kind of the beginning, the properties, kind of setting the stage for your quiz. And the big one, adding and editing questions. So we're going to go in and do that. You might get a pop-up that says, you know, if you're doing this after someone's already taken it, it'll only add or edit for this point moving forward. So if someone's already taken it, they, you know, those scores and questions will not be changed for that user. There we go. So looking at adding and editing questions. So as you can see here, I've already got 6 questions on this quiz. I've kind of sectioned them into part 2. Let's go ahead and add a new section, a part 1 section. So if I click on add and section, we're going to add part 1 for our students just to kind of paste them. They can either see this or not. I can hide it from them. I'm going to let them see it, and I'm going to click save. You can see right away it puts it at the bottom, but what's nice, just like in your content tool where you drag and drop all of your different units and lessons and files wherever you need them to be in the table of contents on the left-hand side, you can do that here when you're building your quiz as well. So as you can see now, everything's kind of associated, kind of out. I want these to be part of part 1. So I can grab this tool and just drag them in just a little bit. And kind of that little indent associates them with part 1. So that is a way to kind of organize your quiz into sections. There we go. Kind of to the right and up a little bit, puts it into that part 1 section. You can add more questions. You can just go ahead and add a new question and choose from that same list that we saw in our question in our quizzes tool. You could add an entire question pool. So this is where I was talking about before. If you create a section within your question library, you could add all of those as a question pool. And I'm just going to show you this really quick. I'm not actually going to do this, but you would give that question pool a title. You would say, all right, how many questions do I want from my question pool? So going in, you need to know, all right, I've got 20 questions in my question pool. I want every student to get 5 of those. Brightspace will choose 5 of those questions at random to give to each student, and every student will get a different set of questions. You're also going to apply points to the question. Once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and browse the question library, and you can choose an entire section of questions. You could open it up and choose individuals. This one's already imported, so I'm not going to use those. I have more. Oh, I don't have more questions. Here we go. Sample questions. I can choose any of these one by one, or I could choose the entire sample section. So that is a way to add the question pool. Once you've put everything you want for your question pool, you would click import. Again, I'm not going to do that for this one. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. Adding a new question, like I said, quite simple, just like we did before. I showed you that in the question library. So that is adding and editing adding questions. Let's edit a question. So let's say I've just thought I want to kind of change the multiple choice question. So you can see here, it's a multiple choice question. I said the answer is B. Well, the answer is not B, the answer is actually C. So I'm just going to go ahead and change that, change the text. Again, you have your options, add hints, short descriptions. You can do custom weights if you want to get into all of that, or feedback that the student will see once they click next or submit. Once I'm done editing, if I want, I can change the point values. I can even randomize the answer order if I wanted to for every student. Another way to kind of, if you don't want to do that question pool, but you want to give a little bit more security to your quiz, that's something you could do. I click save, and that'll update for all of my learners who will take the quiz from this point on. Right, and that
We
is
have
then
a few
saved successfully.
questions.
All right, yep,
If
this is a
we're in
great
a,
place. Yep, this is a great place to stop. I'm going to go back a little bit, and then we'll move on. All right, go ahead.
okay, so top to bottom, can the question library be shared amongst teachers? So if I'm on an 8th grade planning team?
Yeah, you can. You know, that's a good question. I know that you can. Remind me when we get to the share part of this presentation. We'll look if we can share a whole question library. I'm not
Okay.
sure about that. I know you can share questions. I know you can share content from your other people's courses. I think that might be an option. We'll have to look a little bit deeper.
Okay. And then where is the learning repository coming from?
So
I
the
think
learning
that's what she means.
Yeah, the LOR is the learning repository. It's not something that's active for AACPS right now, not something we're using. So that's not something that we can use to import our questions yet. That may be coming in the future.
Okay. Do all the questions have to be of the same type in the question pool? Or can we just add a whole bunch and draw?
Nope, you can add a whole bunch and it'll draw. You just want to be careful if you're going to add a question pool. You want them all to be of kind of the same level. If you don't want to have more advanced questions mixed with more basic questions, because you don't know which question your students are going to get. It's a random assignment of questions.
Makes sense. So you might want to do different sections within.
Yes.
So like your pools would all be of the same level is what you're saying?
Yes, your pool needs to be all the same level. So making them the same type of question might be a good idea.
But then could you draw from multiple pools?
You could draw from multiple pools. Yes, you could have a written response pool. You could have a multiple choice pool. You could have a true false pool.
Okay.
Within a section.
Okay. If a student is taking a quiz on a retake, will they be randomized differently? Is there a way to?
Yes, you can do that. I think that's coming up in one of our next couple tabs.
Okay. And this, I'm not sure if this is in the quiz building or if this is accessibility. Options for the question to be read aloud to the student.
That would have to be in accessibility. And I know there is a session of that, like the read-write tool will read to students.
Yeah, I think that's on the front end of the quiz, perhaps, maybe.
I don't believe there is, like, within the quiz builder, a button or a toggle to click that says, read this question to our students. So,
On the other end.
Yeah.
And then is there math type when you're making questions for math, symbols and whatnot?
Yes, there is an
never mind.
arithmetic question. Yes.
She said she just found it.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
And then one question. So if we already have questions available in Performance Matters, is that going to be available within
Yes.
Brightspace?
So as far as I know, there is not any type of integration yet. And I believe that's coming, and it might be next year when we get that. But there is a session later during the conference, and I think it's a recorded session, so you can come back to it anytime, that talks about using Performance Matters within Brightspace. And really, it's just a matter of linking to Performance Matters. In your course, you can have, I don't know if anyone's noticed, in the nav bar, you can have a Cool Sites tool. The Cool Sites tool includes a direct link to the Student Performance Matters platform.
So we're going to be using both still. Then that was answered already in the chat. Okay,
Yes.
I think we're caught up. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for all the questions, everyone. I appreciate it. All right, so moving on with other parts of building a quiz. And I'm going to move a little faster because I do want you to be able to take the quiz. We have about 20 minutes left. So next to properties, at the top of your, when you're editing or adding to a quiz, we have restrictions. So right away, pretty self-explanatory, hide from users, due dates. You could just set an end date. You could have a start date. So really you can kind of automate when your students will see this. There are also release conditions within Brightspace, not something I'll get into today, but that's another layer of automating when students see and are able to access something in Brightspace. You also have your calendar within Brightspace where you can have this information display in the calendar widget on your Brightspace homepage. Like I was saying, release conditions, I'm not going to get into release conditions today. I believe I have a how-to on release conditions in the presentation. If I don't, I will add that. Quick note to myself. But I do also the, I know the Getting Started in Brightspace, the 3 session module that we did, there was a whole section on release conditions as well. You can add timing, which I think is kind of cool. To your quiz. And for this one that you're going to take today, I believe there's 10 minutes. Since you're all adults, I actually put the clock up there. So there's going to be a little bit of pressure for taking this very simple quiz. But you can have you can just say, you have about 10 minutes. There can be a clock. There can not be a clock. You can recommend the time, or you can actually enforce the time where it would, you could prevent students from making any further changes once there is a time limit. So again, teacher preference, what do you need your quiz to do for you? Again, some kind of more advanced features, you can allow special access to the quiz for certain users. So this doesn't have to go to your entire course. You can specify who would get it and who does not. So those are all kind of restrictions that you can add to your quiz. Moving on to, we have 2 more little sections to do here. And this is, I like this section. So I love the auto grade feature. So it'll grade it and put it right into your grade book for you, your Brightspace grade book. The only thing that you have to have, you can see here, if I don't have a category, or I'm sorry, excuse me, not a category, a grade item in my grade book for this quiz, then it's not going to automatically put it into my grade book for me. It'll still automatically grade it. All of anything that can be. Written responses can't be automatically graded. There's a couple others that can't be automatically graded. And I believe it tells you that when you're in it. But for the most part, most of the question types within the quiz tool can be automatically graded. If you want that grade to go automatically to your grade book within Brightspace, which I know there might be a question, oh, is it going to sync up with PowerSchool? Not this year. Next year, I believe, is the goal to have all of that sync up. It's just not something that was able to be achieved this year, but I know that is on the horizon. So I'm going to make sure I associate my quiz with a grade item. If I don't have a grade item, I can create one right here. There's also some little kind of blurb that tells you what you're doing. So I'm going to associate that with my Brighter and Brightspace grade item. Once I do that, you can now check or uncheck, allow it to export directly to my grade book. Here I can edit my display settings for the student view. I can give my students multiple attempts if I want to. I can give them unlimited attempts. I can give them 10. I can give them 4, 3. This one I gave 4 just because I've been taking this quiz a lot as my son. I didn't want to run out of attempts. Once you do this, and if you make a change, make sure you click apply. Apply will kind of bring all of this to the forefront. That gives you some options for the retakes. You can allow your student to just retake only incorrect questions. So if they get 3 right, but they missed 1, they'll just have to retake that 1. What will the grade give me? Will it be the highest attempt, the lowest attempt, an average, the first, the last? So you can just say, all right, the first one counts, but I'm going to let you go ahead and retake after you do some relearning or we do some reteaching. And then there's you can get in some advanced attempt conditions. Again, we're not going to be able to get into the advanced stuff today, but feel free to play around with that. What's the min-max percentage of each attempt? All right, and moving on, we have one more, the submission view. So this is really kind of just what your students will see once it is submitted. And right here, to edit this, I just go into default view. And you'll get kind of just another screen pop up. So you can send your students, there'll be a message, kind of like if you do Google Forms as quizzes, that you can set that kind of custom message that they see once they click submit. So what do you want them to see? Do you want the questions to show or no? So should they show the questions, yes or no? So I typically show yes, especially if there are, I want to give them that feedback. If you don't want them to, or that immediate feedback, they can kind of see what they answered. So they can show questions as they answered correctly, show that everything they answered incorrectly. So you can choose one of these four. You can also decide, oh, I also want to show the question answers to what they answered correctly or incorrectly. So it's kind of, you just got to really pick and choose. What do you want? What do you want this quiz to do for you? I know I keep saying that, but you have to, a quiz is a tool. It's a learning tool. So what do we want it to do for us? You can show the standards to your students. And hopefully in a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to add those standards. I'm going to move quick. And show the attempt score and the overall attempt score. So there's a lot that you can do as far as what do you want your students to see once they submit. I might have made a change there, so I'll click Save. Once you have done everything that you need to do, you're going to save and close, and you have a quiz ready to go for your students. All right, so back to our presentation. I think we've gone through quite a bit here. I've answered lots of good questions. We've looked at restrictions. We've looked at submission views. All right, so adding your quiz to your content. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that in our building assessment in Brightspace course. So in my content tool, I have a unit for today. And as you can see, you don't see this yet if you're actually in the course because I don't have these visible to students yet. I want to go ahead and add my quiz that I just built. So I'm going to add it right to this top layer. I'm going to click on Add Existing. I'm going to click on Quiz. And I only have one quiz in this course right now. You may have multiple. I'm going to go ahead and click and done. I have my quiz added right here. I'm actually going to delete this one because it's already up here, but I did want to show you that process. So if I click on the quiz and I click on the three dots, I can delete it very easily, especially if you add it twice. The other thing I like to do is a thing you can do if you're giving your student a whole bunch of directions or some learning or some steps. I want you to watch this video, then I want you to take this quiz. I like to link the quiz. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit my text here. So I'm going to click, I'm going to edit. And I want these words, link your quiz, or the name of the quiz, to be linked. So I'm going to highlight, and then I'm going to click on the add link in my HTML editor. And I'm going to scroll down to quizzes. And I'm going to link my quiz. And I'm going to save that. So now your students have kind of options. They can just click the link to go to their quiz. It'll open up in a brand new window. As you can see, it's showing me the edit because I'm the teacher in this course. And you actually will see that now if you refresh your screen, if you're in the Building Assessments in Brightspace course. Or our students have the option to click on the Brighter with Brightspace quiz right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this visible to my students now. Right now you can see it's hidden. And you all, if you refresh your page, you should see it. So I'm going to, just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep talking. Feel free to go and take that quiz if you're a multitasker and you can take the quiz and you want to see what it looks like as a student. While I continue, I'm going to show you just a couple other things that you can do in our last 10 minutes together. And if we run a couple of minutes over and you want to stay, feel free. If you have to go, I totally understand. This whole recording will be posted in the Brighter with Brightspace course.
And then just leave a couple of minutes at the end so we can catch up with a few more questions, please.
Okay, perfect. So the quiz, I just saw that if you're in the Building Assessment in Brightspace course, click on Content, and then open up the first unit. The drop down in the first unit, it should be linked for you now. Or you should see it right here on the right-hand table of contents, right underneath the Brighter with Brightspace Conference July 2021 unit. There are two ways to see it. Inside content. Thank you. All right, so moving on, we are going to next look at, I just want to look, make sure, share. All right, so sharing. Yes, I want to make sure I show you how to share. So in your course admin tool, I have that right in my nav. So get to it by class tools. In my course administration or course admin tool, I'm going to go ahead and click on import, export, copy components. And you can do a lot with this tool. It's a very useful tool, especially I would say you're teaching the same content, you're teaching the same grade level. So first I want to search for an offering. I have not even used any of the other options. I use the top option. So I'm going to search for an offering. I know that I want to copy from my sandbox. And I know that my sandbox is just called Towers. So I'm going to search. You would need the name of your colleague's course that you want to take from the sandbox, or the whatever course you want to take from. So I'm going to add selected. Now, once I do that, you have two options down here at the bottom. You can copy everything from a course. I wouldn't do that. I would select components, so the gray box. And I'm going to say yes, I want to keep going. All right, so as you can see here, you have lots of options. You can copy calendar, checklists, assignments, grades. I'm looking question library. So you can do an entire question library from a colleague. So, and I can bring that over into my course. So this is a great way to get individual questions. So if I click on question library, I can select individual items to copy. I don't have to bring over an entire question library. I can actually go into their course and grab the questions that I want to use, that they said it was cool if I use. So here I have my Brighter with Brightspace, and I want these two questions. I continue. And I'm all set, just finish. And you'll see a screen that pops up that's going to say copying in progress. Once I go back into my question library, I would see those questions. Or if I go into my quiz tool, I would see the quiz. Or if I go into my assignments tool, I would see the assignment that I just brought over. So that is the import, export, copy very quickly. Adding standards. I do want to get into that very quick. I have about 6 minutes. So adding standards to a quiz. I'm going to do that right in my, I'm going to do this in my sandbox. So if I'm in my content tool, I actually changed mine to classwork, but it's the same thing, content tool. I'm going to click on the quiz that I want to add the standards to. And just so you know, you have to have the standards first. In the presentation, there is a video and a how-to on how to add standards to your course. So that has to be done first. Once you have the standards added, you can add the standards to once you have the standards added to your course, you can then associate the standards with anything in your content. So I'm going to do the building assessments in the Brighter with Brightspace quiz. Once I have this highlighted in blue or whatever color, it's got the ring around it, I'm going to click on my options and I'm going to view standards. You can see right now I already have a standard aligned. I'm going to edit my aligned standards, and I'm going to choose other standards that I know go with this quiz. I'm going to save those changes. Again, I added these beforehand, and there is a video on how to do that in the presentation. Once I've done that, I know that these standards are associated with my quiz, and then I can use that as I am grading, or my students will see that. If you remember back when we were in building the quiz, you could show standards or not to the students. So they would see what standards associated with their quiz when they're taking it. And moving on, we're not going to have a lot of time for the grade book, but I do want to show you the grade book. So I hope someone's taken the quiz, but we're going to take a look. So I'm going to go into my class tools. Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to go into my grades, my grade tool. So as you can see, this is my quiz here. I'm looking for, let's see if I can find somebody who took it. Oh, there's somebody in here. And I apologize if we don't quite get to this. I may have bit off a little more I can chew with this quiz, or with this session. I'm not seeing anybody has submitted yet. So I apologize.
So I did submit, but I don't think it graded each question. And that's
Okay.
why I'm going to show it.
There might be an issue with the setup. I did copy this one over from my sandbox. It does work in the sandbox. Let me show you that really quick. So if I go into my grades tool in the sandbox,
If there are some open-ended questions, those won't automatically grade.
right, yeah, and I did want to show that. So you can see here, so my son did get a 6 out of 10. And you can see here, I do have a new submission. You'll see that orange dot. And what I can do is I can click on that. And you get a new, so I have the completion summary here, but if I do want to grade, I'll have to grade one of his attempts. And with the attempts, then I can go ahead and I can read what he did for his open-ended question. I did allow him to record audio and video when I set up the question. So that's another cool feature, is you can allow students to submit video or audio as their answer as well. So that's a cool feature that you can do when you're setting up a written response question or a few others in the Brightspace Quiz Builder. So grading it, you can, like I said, go right into your grades tool or go into the quizzes tool and click on the drop-down arrow and click grade, and you can see all of what needs to be graded for your students in the quizzes tool. So there's a couple options for grading as well. So we did not get to survey, but I'm going to make those visible for everybody just so that you are able to see what a survey looks like. And I do have how-tos and videos on how to look at survey results in the presentation. So I'm going to just quickly go to my content. And I know I wanted to save, I have 2 minutes left. I know we have a few more questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. If you want to stick on, I don't have another session. I know you all do. But if you want to stick on for a couple extra minutes, please feel free. Do you want to share the first question, Amy? If there's anything that needs to be answered.
Sorry, I was muted. So we started out with, is there a way to differentiate timing in the quizzes? So kids that need extended time, if you're going to use that timer.
Not that I know of. I think you'd have to create multiple quizzes and then give certain timing to other quizzes, or and kind of do that special access feature that I showed you, where you give certain students access to the time quiz and other kids not. So that would be one way to do it.
And I think this question might be outside the scope of this course, but is the gradebook going to be required to use the Brightspace gradebook?
Yeah, I don't know about that. So let me go back to my presentation. I know I had something about that. So yeah, pretty much anything about kind of policy or expectations for using Brightspace would have to go through your administrator. I really can't answer those questions. I do have more resources and support in the presentation. Please check that out. My email address is there. I'll also be online at 2 o'clock tomorrow at this Meet link to answer any other questions.
Okay. What is a grade item? That question came up when you were showing in the gradebook. What is meant by that?
It's pretty much that title that's given at the top of your gradebook. So you have to, if you want your quiz to be auto graded and then export those grades to the gradebook, and there might have, like I said, might have been something weird that happened with the setup there with mine. That's why I didn't go. But then the quiz will be associated with a grade item in your gradebook. So that's the only way to have it automatically exported to your gradebook, is to choose a grade item for the quiz.
Okay. And then I was wondering, can we borrow from any course that's in there, or do we have to be added to the course like in Google Classroom?
So
we can just go lift from anybody?
Yeah, pretty much. If you know the name of the course that you want to lift from, you can go in there and do that.
So that would be a way for content teachers to share as well.
Yep. Any course that's part of our AACPS LMS org unit, they're called, you can find it and use it.
Then we have a couple that just showed up. One, pros, cons of Google Form versus quizzes. I believe the Google and Brightspace course addresses that.
Yeah, that'll address it some. Google Form still works. It's not, that Google Form does not integrate with Brightspace. So you're not going to see anything. There's nothing connects to your gradebook, just like Google Assignments. Those are, they don't have that kind of, they integrate, but not completely. So if you want to have that full integration, Brightspace quiz is a good way to go.
Pre-populated pool of questions to choose from. That has come up a couple times. I'm thinking we have to create our own.
Yeah, you really need to create most everything within Brightspace. You're going to have to get started on your own and create those.
Okay. Is there a way to add standards to each question?
I saw that question. I am not sure about that. If you have that question, please email me, or I'm gonna look into that too and add that to the presentation.
Okay. And then a request, if you have time, to show the tab you used to lift questions from someone. It was the
Import, export, copy tool. So you go into course admin and hit the import, export, copy tool. It's fairly self-guided. It'll take you right through the process. And I believe I have a video in the presentation. Yeah, import, export, copy tool. But I can, yeah, there's screenshots here that tell you exactly what to do in the presentation.
And are there instructions on adding objectives to the questions?
Objectives would really just, it would be standards. I don't have directions on that. No, short answer, no, I don't have directions on that. The Brightspace community is a great place to go. Like I said, I wasn't able to cover everything. So Brightspace community is a great place to go. Google is a great place to go and just Google that. I'm still learning a lot about this system, and I'm, allegedly supposed to be some type of expert on it. So, I just saw, would that be something the content coordinators would be doing? I'm not sure about that. I believe standards are I know standards are a work in progress right now. I'm not sure how standards are going to be reflected in your curriculum courses. I know all your curriculum will be in a Brightspace course. I'm not sure how standards will be associated with that course, or if standards will still be kind of part of the document that's within the Brightspace course. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for the thank yous. And I really appreciate all the good questions. I definitely made me think about a few things as well, so I appreciate that. And Amy, thank you for keeping up with everything. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the conference. I'll have a session tomorrow on portfolio.